The upcoming election in the United States has a lot of people on edge and a lot of people wondering what will happen next. And among the high net worth investors and entrepreneurs that we talk to here at Nomad Capitalist, a lot of people are preparing their plan B. In fact, we've been busier than ever in our history helping people set up things like second passports, second residences, and contingency plans in case the wrong thing happens for what they're looking to have happen in the election. But here's my concern. Imagine, and this can apply to any country in the world. It doesn't have to be the United States. It doesn't have to be this year. It doesn't have to be any particular place. But we'll use the U.S. as an example. What I see far too often, whether it's on the day of Brexit, as I sat in Spain watching traffic spike, whether it's on the day that Trump was elected in 2016, and I saw people seeking, what's the fastest second citizenship to get, whether it's events in other countries. We've seen huge spikes in traffic and people calling us. Number one, if Trump wins, if he's your guy, or if Biden wins, if he's your guy, I don't think you're entirely out of the woods. Now, the people who have been calling us are more people who are hoping Trump wins because they live in the United States. Perhaps they like living in the United States and they'd like to keep living there, but they see what is happening in the United States and they see what's happening in the West with people calling for higher taxes, people calling for new kinds of taxes, people calling to punish the wealthy, even riots and violence. I think a lot of people are scared on all sides. Now, the decision that I made when I left the United States for good was to not get involved in the politics. I talk about how it may affect you, but I don't take sides. So you'll forgive me if I'm not going to, be on Trump's side or on Biden's side. I'm just trying to, be here helping you look at the facts. And so, kind of the second concern that I look at is when people they think that if their guy wins, all is perfect. That to me is a recipe for disaster because the point of what we talk about in having options, having a backup plan, a plan B, having an insurance policy on your citizenship, on your tax rate, on your business, on your assets, it's not just a matter of hoping that your guy gets in. So let's just go through a couple things that will still be the case even if Trump wins. Number one, the federal tax rate is still going to be 37% at the top. They did a whole big tax reform to lower the top rate on high earners from 39.6 to 37%. Now, I understand there are certain incentives, certain deductions, there's a bunch of different stuff going on. But if you look at headline tax rates, 37% is the federal rate. Now, your state rate, you can certainly change states, but I have heard from a lot of folks in New York, in California, and Washington, and Maryland, and Massachusetts, your state rate is still going to be set by your state, and it's still going to be pretty high. You can certainly choose to move to Texas. However, as I always say, if you can move from Massachusetts to Texas, you might as well just move somewhere else and work on the federal rate too, and work on the cost of living while you're at it, and work on a lot of other things that you can benefit from being overseas, right? I mean, if you're going to move, you might as well just move, right? So if you already live in a high tax state, you're going to have to pay those high tax state rates, as well as under Trump, state and local taxes are harder to deduct. So if you're one of the people living in New York paying those $40,000 a year property taxes out on Long Island, that's not going to change, other than it's going to be harder to deduct. Your taxes are going to be the same. It's still going to be difficult for you to go overseas as an American and make certain investments, open certain bank accounts, diversify your wealth overseas. If you do so, you're still going to have to file forms like FBAR. If you have companies overseas, you have to report those on forms like 5471. Having a foreign trust to protect certain assets will still carry reporting paperwork. If you choose to live overseas, you'll still pay taxes. In fact, with America First, it's perhaps a little bit more involved to live overseas. You could go to Puerto Rico to avoid that. But do you want to live in Puerto Rico? Maybe, maybe not. You're still going to have increasing unrest. Now, I don't want to get too deep into this one, but who knows what happens? I tend to think that no matter who wins, you're going to see some kind of craziness going on. And you're still going to have all the people around you who think that if you're wealthy, you're the devil, who think that you need to pay more of your money, who think that billionaires shouldn't exist. Next, it'll be millionaires shouldn't exist. They want to impose a wealth tax. They want to impose an inheritance tax or bring down the levels. They want to take the cap off of Social Security so that you pay endlessly and turn it into a total welfare program. Those people aren't going away. And In 2 years, they could take control of the Congress. In 4 years, they could take control of the presidency. And so, this idea that we're just going from one crisis to the next, I think, is never a good way to manage your affairs, not a good way to manage your life. What I love, having lived all around the world and seeing how other cultures operate, is there are just certain cultures out there where they've seen adversity, they've seen the kind of stuff that's coming to the Western world and worse. And they say, we're just going to protect ourselves. And if nothing bad happens, then we weren't any worse off. It cost us some money. It cost us some lawyer fees. Maybe we invested some money somewhere or put some money in a bank account. But you know what? We're protected. And we had that sense of safety. And do you know what I've seen over the last couple months? A couple people, a handful of people, who are freaking out about how they may not have enough time to react if their guy doesn't win. So here's my approach. Just be ready all of the time. If Trump wins, great. Perhaps you have a reprieve if that's your view on things. But again, your tax rate's not going to zero. The United States does not become Monaco. It does not change the fact that the United States is dropping every year in personal freedom, economic freedom, all sorts of different rankings. Safety will not magically become #1. The country will not become Singapore overnight. And so all those issues really fundamentally are going to be there. It's just going to be, hey, my guy won, and politically speaking, I feel great. I used to be a political animal ever since I was 12, 13 years old, and I got really into it. Then I realized it doesn't really matter. Now, I understand a lot of people don't like me saying that. They think it's absolutely traitorous, except it's not my country anymore, so I guess it's not traitorous. But they think that this guy doesn't understand. If Joe Biden wins, it's going to be the end. Okay, well, then you better prepare. If that's a possibility. But people want to alternate between Biden's not going to win, the smugness of Biden will never win, and then the freaked out, you better be prepared for communism. Well, then I guess you better be prepared. Stop sitting around to get your second passport until, what is it, November 4th? When's the day after the election? Get it now. Do it. If you are a high net worth individual and you're the kind of person that they are coming after with pitchforks, just get it done. And then you'll have it for 2020 or 2024 or 2028, or who knows? I mean, politics around the world is becoming increasingly interesting these days. Who knows who implements what policies? So, to me, an insurance policy, once your guy loses, is not an insurance policy. That's like buying car insurance after you drive your car off the cliff. You can't do that. Now, if you want to wait and you want to watch Trump lose, and I don't know if that'll happen or not, but if you want to wait until the results come in and Trump does lose, and then you want to go out and rush to get a second passport, here's what I'll tell you from experience, from helping hundreds of people. People assume everything's going to be all right. Okay, that's the nature of us as entrepreneurs. We figure we'll find a way around it. Until something happens so quickly and they can't react, and I've seen that happen multiple times. I knew one guy, it cost him over $500,000 because he thought, okay, it'll be okay, okay. I said, dude, they're doing this tomorrow. And he couldn't react in time. I've been talking to him about this for months, and he couldn't react in time. And I don't want you to be caught up like that. Now, if you're going to stay in whatever your country is, again, in this case, we're talking about the U.S., it could be UK post-Brexit, it could be whatever country that you live in, where I hear from people all around the world who feel uncomfortable with the direction their country is going, from Mexico to Spain to places all over the world. Certainly you can stay and you can make it work. The worst thing that I suppose will happen is some government's going to come in and they're going to start taking your assets, whether it's retirement accounts, they're going to say you can't own too many homes, who knows what they could come up with. I think that you have to ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario really going to be? Do you really believe that if your guy doesn't get in, they're going to start taking all your stuff? Before you answer, do you really believe that? Or is it just something you say because you'd like to kvetch, because you'd like to complain, because politics is important to you? I think some people, at least for me, coming from the United States, they don't want to leave. As much as they say they want to leave, they like staying and complaining. If they just solved the problem, if they just got out, it wouldn't be fun anymore for them. And if that's you, then I think that would be a great realization to make. And I think that's fantastic to know that about yourself, if that's what applies to you. But if you do believe that your country is headed in the wrong direction, it doesn't really matter who wins. You know, my father told me, go where you're treated best back in the mid-1990s because he realized that the United States and many of the established countries at the time would not be, in my lifetime, what they once were. There will be ebbs and flows with that. Certainly, in the last 25 years, he and many people have looked at the situation in my case, in our case, the United States, and said, oh, now we're heading in a little bit better direction. Now we're heading a little bit worse direction. But, you know, if the long-term prognosis is negative, if more and more people are in favor of policies you don't like, of taking your money, of cultural, social, or whatever policies it is that you don't like, if that's the general trend, then you want to be protected from that and not allow every election to be a reprieve. Do you know what I've been hearing for my entire life that I've been following politics for 2.5 decades? Every single election is going to be the most important election of our lifetime. It's a thing that political hacks in the media say to get ratings and to get you to keep paying attention, and the thing that politicians say to make sure you show up to vote. I realized they're all the same. No one is more important than the other. It's not the most important election in your lifetime. It's just another election on the way to an increasingly slippery slope, worsening environment, more rules, more taxes, more restrictions, fewer freedoms. If that's the path you think your country's on, then you need a plan B. And it can't be based around whether Trump wins or loses. It just has to be around making sure you have said plan B. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.